Good morning. This is our final revision this year. It is our final biology revision for semester 2 test, and it's going to be in the form of questions and answers. We will visualize or discuss every slide and see the types of questions that might be related to the content of this slide. So first of all, since we are discussing infection control, then you might be asked about the definition of infection. So I might say define infection, or I might say what does the term infection refer to? In this question, we have to focus on certain pieces of information. Number one, that there should be invasion or penetration. Invasion or penetration. Invasion of what? Penetration of what? Either of body cells or of your body fluids. Body fluids like what? Like blood, like lymph. By living organism. It should be a living organism. If it's not living, then it wouldn't be infectious. It can't be infectious unless it is a virus, of course. And these organisms that are infectious are not normally present on your body. So as we said before in our previous classes, that most pathogenic organisms do not essentially exist on the surface of the body, with the exception of, which exception? The exception is a friendly flora that might be converted into a pathogen. So is it enough to say penetration of body cells or fluids by organisms that are not normally present on the body? No, we have to say that infection also includes, or the term infection also includes, the reaction of your body. So in your definition, you have to include that there are local reactions and systemic reactions. Of course, I might ask you only about the local reactions or only about the systemic reactions. So I might say, what are the local reactions to infection? Or what are the systemic body reactions to infection? The local reactions to infection include essentially redness, swelling, pain, if we are talking about symptoms, and there is a fourth local reaction that's not written here, which is warmth. What are the systemic reactions? The systemic reactions are mainly fever and generalized body aches, but you might also add other systemic reactions if you wish. Where am I going to get the systemic reactions? From the systemic diseases that we have studied before. So you might add nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, but the main systemic reactions are fever and generalized body aches. I might also ask you about, in another context, about the cause, the underlying cause of the local reactions, or more accurately speaking, the mechanism of the local reactions. It would be a more difficult question. What do I mean by the mechanism of local reactions? How or why? What's the underlying change that caused the local reaction? For example, the local reactions are due to invasion, and invasion is associated with tissue destruction, and tissue destruction releases histamine, and histamine causes dilatation of the blood vessels. And it is the dilatation of the blood vessels that causes all these signs: the redness, the swelling, the pain, and the warmth. I might also ask you another advanced question, which is, what is the cause of the fever and of the generalized body aches, or the mechanism? How do they develop? They develop because there are chemicals that are called pyrogens, and those pyrogens are released by the immune system and by some pathogenic organisms, and these chemicals called pyrogens reset the heat regulating center of the brain, at a new temperature, like 38 or 39, that's higher than the original normalized body temperature. And they are also responsible, these pyrogens and other toxins are responsible for the body aches. Another question related to that slide is, what does the term infective organism refer to? An infective organism is an organism that's capable of causing infection. So if you want to be more explicit, you would say it is an organism that is capable of penetrating the body cells and body fluids, causing local and systemic reactions. What is an infectious organism? An infectious organism is a contagious organism, and a contagious organism is an organism that is capable of transferring infection from one person to another, or from one living organism to another. Usually, most infective organisms are infectious. Then we move on to the next slide. And here it's just a fact that we have more bacteria than human cells, meaning that the number of your human cells is smaller than the number of microorganisms that are the flora, whether they are friendly flora or whether they have been converted into pathogenic flora. But generally speaking, the number of cells of your human body cells that are already huge, varying between 37 to 100 trillion cells, is smaller than the number of bacteria. So this indicates what? What's the importance of this fact? This fact indicates the importance of such bacteria that are related to your body, okay? I'll never ask you about the specific numbers of human cells or of bacteria, but I might get you a true and false statement or a true and false question. Is it true that the number of human cells is smaller than that of bacteria? Yes. I might give you a statement, the number of bacteria, bacterial flora is larger than the number of your body cells as a statement. And then I would ask you, what is the significance of that statement or of that fact? The significance is that since they are bigger in number than our human body cells, then they must be important. I might also ask you about here another question that is related to this slide. I might ask you about the flora definition. Define flora. Usually you rush to saying that flora, the term flora includes all, and when I say flora, by the way, I'm not specifying, I'm not saying friendly flora, I'm saying flora. So you have to be general. You have to give a general definition and say it is, you usually say it is the total of all bacteria that are present on the surface of the body or inside your body cavities, especially the gut. But this definition would be half what is required, because actually, by convention, the term flora includes the genome or the gene pool of all these bacteria that are on the surface of your body or inside your body cavities. So be cautious not to forget to start your definition by the word genome. We will talk a little bit about intestinal flora. And of course, as we would also ask you, true and false. For example, all intestinal flora are friendly. No, this is a false statement, because there are certain intestinal flora that are essentially pathogenic. Like what? Like the bacteroids. The bacteroids are gram-negative bacteria. Gram-negative is a way of staining When we stain bacteria, they might be blue in color or red in color under the microscope. If they are blue in color, we say gram-positive. If they are red, more or less red, we say gram-negative. But of course, you will never be asked about this. So bacteroids are gram-negative bacteria that are essentially pathogenic. They secrete toxins, and these toxins are unfortunately carcinogenic. What do we mean by carcinogenic? We mean causing cancer. So not all intestinal flora are friendly. Some of them are essentially pathogenic. Like what? Like the bacteroids. Others might be converted from friendly flora to pathogenic flora under certain conditions that we will be discussing later on. Another question related to the pathogenic flora in the gut or in the cavity of the small intestine, do they normally represent the majority of bacterial flora in the gut? No. We have previously discussed that in a healthy person, there is a healthy ratio between friendly flora and pathogenic flora. And the ratio is 85 healthy to 15 unhealthy or pathogenic. Of course, this ratio might be disturbed under certain conditions that we'll be discussing later on. So the friendly beneficial bacteria predominate. This is a fact. Here we are discussing a few benefits, not all of them, of the gut flora. The most important two benefits of the gut flora, of the friendly flora, is that they produce vitamins, especially the vitamin B complex, like B1, B6, B12, and of course, as you know, the group, the vitamin B complex group of vitamins is important for the health of your nerves and for the synthesis of your red blood corpuscles. Now, the second benefit is producing organic acids inside the gut. And of course, if we're talking about organic acids inside the gut, we might have lactic acid, for example. But what organic acid is produced on the surface of the skin? The organic acids produced on the surface of the skin are essentially the fatty acids that are secreted by the skin flora. What's the importance of these two important products of gut flora? I might ask you about, I might write a statement like friendly gut flora produce vitamins and organic acids. Justify. Why are they doing this? They are doing this because this is beneficial to your body. So what are the benefits? When I say justify here, this is exactly as I said, for example, what are the benefits of vitamins and organic acids? So these vitamins and organic acids are nutrients to the gut endothelium, to the inner lining mucosa of the small intestine. They nourish these cells, they give them energy, they protect them, they help them grow. And meanwhile, not only the mucosa or the gut epithelium benefits, but this is when they are inside the gut. But when they are absorbed, these vitamins and organic acids can be absorbed and reach the blood in a way or another and reach the liver, and they are important again for the health of liver cells. And in addition to this, they suppress the growth of pathogenic gut bacteria. So I would rather say number 1 and 3 together first, and then number 2, because important for the health of the gut epithelium and suppress pathogenic gut bacteria. This is done while the vitamins and organic acids are still in the gut. But when they are absorbed into the blood, they reach the liver, and they are important for the health of the liver cells. We've just said that there is a balance. There should be a balance between friendly flora and pathogenic flora, and there should be a ratio, a healthy ratio, which is 85 to 15. And 85 concerns the friendly flora. Therefore, the friendly flora usually predominate in the gut of a healthy person. These friendly flora should predominate. Why? Because when they predominate, I might ask you to justify why is it important for these friendly gut flora to predominate? Simply because of what we've said on the previous slide, because these healthy, friendly, or actually these friendly beneficial flora produce useful nutrients, and you might give examples like organic acids and vitamins. And meanwhile, they suppress pathogenic bacteria. But if the opposite occurs, like here, like what we are discussing here on that slide, I might ask you a new type of questions, which is what happens when? So what happens when harmful gut bacteria predominate? It would be exactly the opposite. So when bad bacteria predominate, the friendly bacteria would be diminished in number. So the production of useful nutrients will diminish. The production of harmful toxins by pathogenic bacteria will increase. And I might ask you another question, what are the harmful products of pathogenic bacteria? The harmful products of pathogenic bacteria essentially can be considered toxins in general. So we shouldn't put toxins as a separate entity in letter B. We'd rather say they produce toxins. Toxins like what? Toxins like products of putrefaction and carcinogens. We've just discussed carcinogens. They are substances, toxic substances that are secreted by anaerobic or they are gram negative, and meanwhile anaerobics, they are anaerobes. The bacteroids are anaerobes, meaning that they cannot respire and produce energy in the presence of energy. So carcinogens are toxins produced by anaerobes like gram negative bacteroids, and they're harmful because they might cause cancer. Now, what are products of putrefaction? Products of putrefaction are usually gases like carbon dioxide, like H2S, which is hydrogen sulfide, like CH4, which is methane gas. All of these, or most of them, have bad odors, and at the same time, they result from anaerobic breakdown of food or fermentation of food. Now, as we said before, these toxic products, whether they are products of putrefaction or carcinogens, they have bad effects. Some of these bad effects are immediate, like, for example, having vomiting and diarrhea. So if I ask you about the immediate effects, you might say, for example, vomiting, diarrhea, bloating, nausea before vomiting. But sometimes if they do not cause immediate effects like vomiting and diarrhea, they would cause prolonged effects or delayed effects, meaning that these effects do not appear on the spot, but they appear later on. And they appear later on the long run, meaning that you should have harbored bacteroids for years and years in your colon or in your gut, and you should also be genetically predisposed before suffering from these delayed effects. So if you all the time have these harmful products of putrefaction and toxins inside your gut, then there would be premature aging. You would appear older than your real age. These toxins might affect liver function and kidney function and cause liver diseases and kidney diseases. These toxins might cause cancer, but as I said before, on the long run and in genetically predisposed individuals. These toxins might also cause stiffness of the walls of the arteries, and this might cause cerebral accidents or heart attacks, which we call atherosclerosis. So what is atherosclerosis? It is stiffness of the walls of the arteries. They are no more as elastic as before. They might also cause, and this is a direct result of atherosclerosis, they might result in elevation of the blood pressure or hypertension with all the consequences of hypertension. They might also affect your immune system and result in diminished or reduced or impaired immunity. Okay, but up till now, there isn't accurate knowledge about which species exactly of a harmful bacterial flora cause which diseases, although it is known that bacteroids cause cancer on the long run. If all what we have mentioned on the previous slide are the effects of the imbalance with the pathogenic bacteria predominating, so what might cause the imbalance? Why would we have more pathogenic bacteria than friendly bacteria? There are a multiplicity of causes that might disturb the ratio. So I might ask you about the causes of disturbing the normal 85 to 15% or 85 to 15 ratio of friendly bacteria to pathogenic bacteria. And all these are the causes of imbalance. Getting older, having an unbalanced diet like what that might favor pathogenic bacteria. Unbalanced diet, I might ask you about the poor diet that might cause the imbalance because you already know this very well. So the poor diet is a diet that doesn't contain fibers like vegetable fibers or fruit plant fibers in general. A poor diet is a diet that could, by the way, a poor diet does not mean a cheap diet, because if a poor diet means an unbalanced diet, so you might eat a lot of proteins, more than enough proteins, and therefore you favor the bacteroids and you favor cancer colon. A poor diet is a diet that's poor in vitamins and so on. Now, amongst the causes that might cause the imbalance, we have the stress. If you're all the time stressed, or antibiotic therapy, because as you know, antibiotics kill not only the pathogen, the pathogen in question, but they also kill the friendly flora. So there is no more protection provided by the friendly flora. Immune disorders. Of course, if you have a weakened immune system, then the open channels, the talk between the friendly bacteria and the immune system is no more effective. Radiation therapy and chemotherapy that are related to cancer, of course, because they affect the immune system. Pernicious anemia. Pernicious anemia is a kind of anemia or diminution of the red blood cells because of lack of vitamin B12. If you have pernicious anemia, then definitely you have an impaired immunity. Gut surgery, of course, if you remove a part of the gut, then you are disturbing all these friendly flora and their stability and their habitat. Altered peristalsis, for example, if you have severe diarrhea, then you're losing the friendly flora with the loose stools because you are defecating frequently. On the other hand, if you have constipation, then you are like storing the toxins, and this impairs the growth of friendly bacteria. And at the end, we have the liver and kidney diseases. Now, how can we restore the balance? By doing exactly the opposite of the causes of the imbalance. So if I ever ask you, how can you restore the balance of the flora in the gut, then you should take, it's exactly the opposite. We cannot, of course, avoid being old, but we can take a good diet, rich in fibers, rich in vitamins, diminish the protein content, diminish stress, avoid unnecessary antibiotic therapy, take vitamins and a healthy diet for boosting up our immune system. And if we have an autoimmune disorder, we should be treated from that autoimmune disorder. We should avoid, of course, surgery as much as we can. So we should take a healthy, well-balanced diet, and we can also, this is not one of the reasons that, or one of the ways we can improve the balance by doing the opposite of the previous slide, but this is oral bacterial therapy. Oral bacterial therapy is a separate entity we have studied on later slides, and oral bacterial therapy includes essentially probiotics. When I say oral, what is, I might say, or I might ask you, what does the term oral bacterial therapy refer to? The term oral bacterial therapy refers to probiotics. What are probiotics? Probiotics are oral supplements, food supplements, or pills that are rich in friendly flora. Pills are pills. What are oral food supplements that might enrich friendly flora? We can mention yogurt, for example, because it contains lactobacilli, or sauerkraut, for example, or any type of fermented food that contains bacteria. What's the importance of the oral bacterial therapy? The importance is that you are directly adding friendly flora to the gut. So it is a direct way of adding friendly flora to the gut. If I add those friendly flora to the gut, what would happen? What happens when you take oral bacterial therapy? If I ask you, what happens when you take oral bacterial therapy? It's exactly the same question as what are the benefits of oral bacterial therapy? The benefits of when you enrich oral bacterial therapy, they occupy space, they secrete substances to suppress pathogens, and therefore they will suppress putrefaction and all the toxic products of pathogens. They will normalize peristalsis because they will increase the health of the gut epithelium. They will increase immunity because they boost up the immune system, and therefore they will increase the resistance to infection. All this is done how? By secreting useful vitamins, by secreting useful acids, as we have said on the previous slide. So if I ever ask you A, B, C, which are the benefits of the oral bacterial therapy, how are they carried out? They are carried out because oral bacterial flora will reproduce, they will increase in number, they will occupy space and hinder the pathogens from reproducing, and meanwhile, they will secrete useful substances that do all this, that do A, B, and C. So you essentially are what you eat. If you eat healthy bacteria, then you will be healthy. And then here we have the microbiome. And the microbiome, as we have said before, while talking about the friendly flora, it's almost the same definition. It is the genome of all the friendly flora, or all the bacteria that are present on your body system and inside your body cavities. And as we said before, by secreting useful substances, they affect not only your health, but your mood and your behavior. I might ask you this question, but it would be a difficult question. When I say, for example, friendly flora improve your health, improve your mood, improve your behavior, explain the statement or justify that statement, you should just mention the benefits of friendly flora, including suppression of pathogens and all the useful substances they secrete and how they affect your body, like, for example, affecting epithelium, like affecting liver function. You might also add improving brain function, because when they go to the blood, they don't only improve liver function, they will reach the brain and improve brain function. When we come to mood, I might ask you about mood and behavior. You might mention what we have studied in the video about serotonin, and that the majority of serotonin, which is the hormone of happiness and love, essentially the hormone of happiness, oxytocin is the hormone of love, then you might mention serotonin as well. And here we talk about probiotics. As we said before, they are living, they are friendly flora. They are added directly to the gut in the form of food supplements or in the form of pills, and they increase the density of friendly flora with all the benefits of friendly flora, and we discussed the two examples. But the prebiotics are something else. The prebiotics are essentially food for friendly bacteria. So the prebiotics are essentially plant fibers, vegetables or fruits that whose cellulose food items whose cellulose fibers cannot be digested by the human being. So they are broken down by bacteria to get so that they can get energy by friendly bacteria. So they are essentially food for friendly bacteria, and therefore, when you give prebiotics, you increase the number of friendly flora indirectly. Why indirectly? Because you're not adding friendly flora. You're just adding food for friendly flora. But when you add food for friendly flora, these friendly flora would feed on that food to get energy. They would have enough energy to flourish, to reproduce, to grow, to occupy more space, to produce more useful substances. Okay, they are usually complex carbohydrates, as I've said. Complex carbohydrates like what? Complex carbohydrates like cellulose fibers. Sometimes we give symbiotics, and symbiotics are supplements that contain bacteria and cellulose, and in a way or another, they contain complex carbohydrates. And it's being thought that when you give both together in the same supplement, then you would and like potentiate or synergize the effect of each. You might give the pills together and the fibers, but at the same time. You might take probiotics and take fibers at the same time. Why do microorganisms infect us? This is a very simple question. Microorganisms are not evil. Justified. They're not evil. They don't want to harm us. When they harm us not on purpose, but in an involuntary way, because they are essentially pathogens. So essentially, why do microorganisms infect us? They infect us because they need food and shelter. Here in the main paragraph, the main body of the text, we have a very important concept, which is what's the difference between a friendly flora and a pathogenic one. A friendly flora is bacterium or a living organism that does not penetrate your body cells or body fluids, but a pathogen penetrates your body fluids and body cells. The friendly flora are not harmful. The pathogenic flora are harmful and cause diseases. The friendly flora produce useful substances that are beneficial to the body, like vitamins and organic acids. They are essential for the health of the intestines, for the health of the liver, for the health of the brain. They improve your mood and so on. But the pathogenic bacteria secrete products of putrefaction and toxic products that cause cancer. And you can give an example of each. Friendly flora, like, for example, staphylococcus on the surface of the skin, or staphylococcus in the nasal cavity, or P. acnes before puberty, and pathogenic bacteria or lactobacilli, for example, in the stomach or in the vagina. But as an example of pathogenic bacteria, you might mention bacteroids, or you might mention, for example, Yersinia pestis, or you might mention, for example, Vibrio cholera, you might mention Salmonella typhi, you might mention P. acnes after puberty. All these are examples of pathogenic organisms. I'll stop here, and I'll be sending other videos, inshallah, later on. Thank you, guys.